In the second Alien vs Predator movie, AVP Requiem, in the scene just before the first Predator is killed by the PredAlien, we can see the surrounding walls are adorned with dozens and dozens of trophy skulls. We can see a few interesting looking ones, such as an alien queen, and some other alien skulls which look to have a horn on them, suggesting they had a different type of host, and another one that kinda reminds me of the Nemesis from Resident Evil 3, and even one from a Triceratops. But there is one in particular which will look familiar if you're an Alien fan with a keen eye, and the brightness on your TV turned up. This is AVP Requiem after all. If we take a closer look at it, we can see that it does in fact bear a striking resemblance to the Space Jockey from the original Alien film from 1979. You'll notice how the skull looks like the flight suit helmet, complete with the trunk, and even some of the rib looking parts which would sit over the top of it, instead of a human looking skull that you might expect. Bear in mind that this film was 5 years before Prometheus was made, and so the engineers we know them as today hadn't been created yet, and the species were mostly shrouded in mystery and were usually referred to as either space jockeys or pilots at the time. They had actually appeared before in comic book form, where what we've now come to know as a breathing tube on their helmets were depicted as being trunks, just like on an elephant, and they had an entirely different look to them. This was all before Ridley Scott returned to make the prequels and have now been rendered 100% non-canon, but I do find it interesting how people used to imagine what the Space Jockey might look like back then before Prometheus came out. Although, talking about stuff not being canon, the Prometheus engineers would now confirm that the AVP movies are certainly not canon to the Alien movies, seeing as how this skull in AVPR is different to the human-looking engineers from the canon movie Prometheus. Although something else to think about is how in The Predator, there is actually evidence which links that film to the AVP movies, suggesting that the Predator movies in fact do take place in the same universe as the AVP movies, as we see the spear with the alien tail that Lex has. That is whether or not you want to even count the Predator as canon to the other Predator movies though, as there are a lot of people who see the Predator as a disgrace to the franchise. So it would seem that this small, seemingly insignificant detail, a mere Easter egg, actually is some pretty hard evidence that says that AVP is not canon to the Alien movies, but is canon to the Predator movies. Unless you don't count the Predator as canon to the other Predator films, then there are 3 different universes. One with the Alien movies, one containing the Predator movies except the Predator, and one with AVP1, AVPR, and the Predator. So I guess in that case, you could say The Predator is the 3rd AVP movie, except it has no aliens in it. But what if they'd stuck to the original script, but instead of there being hybrids in the pods, there were xenomorphs instead? And then there are also those concepts of Newt being frozen in that pod at the end of the movie instead of the Predator killer suit. So with some tweaks, the Predator could have easily passed for an AVP 3. I think it would have still been an awful film, but at least they'd have rounded out AVP as a trilogy. And if you're unsure whether it actually is supposed to be a space jockey skull, they actually do mention that it is in the film's commentary.
If you look up on the right, there's actually the Space Jockey. I think that's a cousin of the...
After Prometheus' release, there was another comic named Fire and Stone, in which a predator named Ahab battled an engineer on LV-223. With the help of a human named Galgo, the predator killed the engineer and was seen holding up his skull in victory. This version more closely reflects what we'd expect an engineer's skull to look like, having now seen what the space jockeys actually look like in Prometheus, and how what was previously thought to be their body was actually a suit they would climb into to fly their spacecrafts. This version of the skull resembles a large human skull. So when Prometheus came out, the space jockey species' backstory was finally explored in some detail, but I'd say that I actually prefer the idea that the suit was the creature's body rather than a humanoid being inside wearing it. I think what we traditionally assumed them to be was more alien and mysterious than them simply being large humans. And I thought the skull was a pretty cool little detail for the filmmakers to include in AVPR, and I think it's interesting how it resembles what we all thought the creature creatures would look like back then before Prometheus came out, and explored the engineers in more detail. Make sure to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you aren't already. Let me know your thoughts down below, and here's some more videos I think you'll like. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.